It's the most wonderful time of the year. And no, I'm not talking about the 14 international holidays that fall around this time. It's also summer where I am, so this festive sweater was a terrible idea. Oh, much better. So, of course, the most wonderful time is year-end data analysis. Who's ready to get excited with me? Now, obviously, the best kind of year-end data analysis is your own Spotify Wrapped. We get it, you're eclectic. But the obvious runner-up has to be new remote work data from the Harvard Business Review. Let's hear it. They just came out with some really interesting insights that you probably don't have time to read yourself since it's peak holiday season, but luckily for you, I made time to read it all. And if you keep watching, I'll skip all the boring stuff and give you all the highlights in just a couple of minutes. This is Out of Office, episode 17. Now, before we dive in, I want to quickly take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone who's been tuning in for the past 17 weeks. We've reached over 2.5 million people. There's clearly a lot of demand for news about the future of work that's not boring as and I'm happy you're here. And by the way, I was getting a lot of messages from people asking me how they could know when a new episode was coming out. And following this channel and commenting on every video is a good start, but it still won't always hit your feed. So I've made a new and super easy way for you to get the new episode in your inbox every Thursday. Here's the link, and we'll put it in the comments too, so you can click straight on it. Okay, on to that Harvard Business Review data. The headline alone got me excited because if you watch the series, you'll know that the myth about remote workers being lazy is one of my biggest pet peeves. And this year that only heated up with all those rumors about quiet quitting. So the question of whether remote workers become less engaged over time is pervasive. And it's hugely important because every simple CEO that announces a return to office, wait, did I say simple? I meant every single CEO. Maybe that was better. Every single simple CEO that announces a return to office always claims it's because teams collaborate better in person. But what do the facts say? That's what Andrew Brodsky and Mike Tolliver teamed up to try and figure out. They scraped data from every Zoom, Teams, and WebEx meeting at 10 companies across multiple industries, 7 of which are Fortune 500 ones. And they compared 6 weeks in peak lockdown 2020 with the same 6 weeks in 2022. Now, if you think counting meetings is a terrible way to measure collaboration, stay with me here, I will get to that. But the research did identify 5 major ways that remote collaboration has changed in that long 2 years. And spoiler alert, every single data point shows remote workers becoming more engaged and not less. So here's the first. Remote meetings are happening more. 60% more, in fact, which is 5 to 8 extra remote meetings per employee, despite the fact that a lot of offices were hybrid this year and in-person meetings didn't get counted. Meetings are also shorter, down from 43 minutes in 2020 to 33 in 2022, which I personally like to think comes down to Susan from accounting figuring out how to share her screen without calling tech support. Remote meetings have half as many participants too, dropping from an average of 20 to 10. One person who will be particularly happy about this is our dear friend Elon Musk, who famously caps meeting participants at 6. Though apparently this drop is mostly down to a huge increase in the number of one-on-one meetings, so it doesn't mean that everyone got the Musk memo. The fourth way that remote collaboration has changed since 2020 is that 66% of one-on-ones this year weren't scheduled. That's a huge uptick from just 17% 2 years ago. And personally, this is the insight that I find most compelling because it mirrors the exact kind of speedy and productive interactions that some people feared were going to become extinct if colleagues couldn't walk to each other's desks. But life will always find a way. Okay, and the final nugget was that in both years, 6% of people left the organization shortly after the study. And that group collectively did the exact opposite of the previous 4 points, with less interactions of every kind. Now, this group does combine people who resigned with people who got fired, but it's still the closest thing I've ever seen to actual data on quiet quitting, and certainly proves that a reduction in collaboration is a major warning sign that someone's headed for the door. But that brings me to my biggest issue with both the concept of quiet quitting and this survey itself. Firstly, quiet quitting is not a remote work issue. Employees in offices have been disengaging since the beginning of time. It just didn't have a catchy name before. I mean, I remember one colleague who came up with increasingly unbelievable excuses to get out of her commitments and use up every single minute of sick leave before she walked. And as far as the survey goes, while the data is interesting, there's one huge oversight that I can't believe escaped the writers. Who the decided that the best way to measure collaboration is by counting meetings? Santa? Look, I understand that collaboration is a really hard thing to measure at scale, maybe impossible. So the study isn't useless, but in 2022, with so many other forms of collaboration available, counting meetings and calling it a day is so reductive. The researchers actually do point out that it's possible some of these meetings are productivity theater where people show up just to look busy. But they fail to consider that maybe, just maybe, the people who are most productive could be the ones with the least meetings, and the companies that are most productive could be the ones that are giving their people enough freedom to actually do their job instead of just talking about it in meetings. Personally, this year, my two most productive forms of collaboration were easily recording quick Loom videos and commenting back and forth in Google Doc threads. Those little rippers can be threaded by topic, edited with new information later, and used to follow up and resolve outstanding action. So find me a meeting that can do all that. And of course, because both these forms of collaboration are asynchronous, they don't have to interrupt my train of thought when I'm doing deep work. After all, I heard somewhere that a silent night is a holy night. And when all is calm, you can actually do your damn job. So this holiday season, why not take a page out of Elon's book and cancel every unnecessary meeting? Your 2023 will look a hell of a lot brighter, and I'd bet all the presents under my tree that you'll also become more productive and no less engaged. And with that, I want to hear from you. If these researchers counted all of your meetings this year, would you get a gold star or a lump of coal like me? Does an avalanche of meetings really correlate with great collaboration? I'm betting you and I and everyone else watching can come up with 20 better ways to measure our own engagement, minimum. So drop your idea in those comments and let's show those Harvard researchers how it's done. I'm Andrew Ellen, and the future of work is out of office.